Going on, guys? Bart here with Tully Television. I want to thank all of you for stopping by. Hope today is the day that we earn your subscription. Hope you all remember how awesome and amazing all of you are. And today we're going to be getting into a comic book review. We're going to be continuing our retro read through of Excalibur. That's right, issue 4 here. Very interesting cover here. Just basically this janitor closing up shop for the day. And oh, and the back cover here, Megan here, our one of our burgeoning favorites, shape shifting favorites there. I do want to mention that she is a shapeshifter in case I haven't mentioned that in earlier reviews. In case I didn't make it clear in some earlier reviews with the werewolves, also, the reason why they were searching for Rachel was because she. I know I didn't really touch on this much in the initial review, but she was captured by Mojo, had signed a contract, and when she escaped, that's more why the werewolves were searching her out. Um, yeah, I kind of remember maybe not mentioning that in earlier reviews, so I'm correcting myself if I didn't mention that here. If I didn't mention that earlier, I'm mentioning it now. And we are starting off with a new story here. We're going to be seeing our team face off against an old X-Men uh, villain here by the name of Arcade. Arcade is someone who kind of sets up elaborate fun houses. Think of him as one of the earlier incarnations of Jigsaw, so to speak. But the whole fun house is full of death traps, and some of his really base motivation is to set these things up and see how people react to them. He also enjoys the chaos that he creates by doing this. It's almost as if he is someone who's studying the human psychology, so to speak, but not for any greater good for him or humanity, more just for him to get a couple of chuckles and laugh out of the whole thing. So that's kind of some base history on him. Again, he is an X-Men villain that uh, it's been around for a while. I don't know if he's been in any major stories over the last few years in the X-Men titles, but maybe one day he'll get his due. I've always found him to be kind of like a more of a C-list type of villain. Again, this is written by Chris Claremont, Alan Davis on the pencils, and Paul Neary as the inker. Now, this title of this issue is still crazy after all of these years. Okay, and we open up a Courtney here, reminiscing about her time with Captain Britain, reminiscing about the love that they used to share, but also remembering things that made them kind of realize that it may not work. But with his recent visit in last issue and some relationship issues, so to speak, because as Captain Brian was being confronted about his alcoholism, he kind of was really a dick to Megan, his fiance, his girlfriend, and Nightcrawler and her seem to be having some flirtation together. So there's a possible love triangle happening there between those three characters. We'll see some of that here. between Megan and Nightcrawler, but Captain Britain is really, again, dealing with a lot of guilt. He's dealing with a lot of unsteadiness about himself. He's not confident like a leader like Cyclops or like Captain America, where they may not be sure 100% if what they're deciding is going to work out, but they're confident enough to see the plan through or to at least formulate a plan for the team. And he seems to be very unsure and uneasy of himself. And in some ways, it's good that, Kitty Pryde is on the team, that Nightcrawler is on the team, because before this book, it seemed like Captain Britain was more of a solo hero for the UK, not necessarily used to working as a team. Here, with the experience between Kitty and Kurt, and I would even say Rachel, from her days of the Ascani, traveling back from the future to here, and then getting captured by Arcade and escaping from there, she would maybe even have more experience as a possible team leader, even over Captain Britain. But in this series, over time, I do think that he gains more steadiness about himself once he kind of takes his alcoholism under control, becomes a little bit more realizing that he is smart, people will rally around him, but no one's going to rally around him if he's not even rallying for himself. But let's get into this. The Crazy Gang is in the attempts of kidnapping Courtney here. And the reason why, again, is because Arcade, he's looking to be, he's looking for some sort of entertainment, so to speak. Here's one, Tweedledum, Tweety. I was going to call him Tweety Dum Dum. Why not Tweety Dum Dum here? On his chariot of rats here. Basically, Courtney gets out and comes across his path with Arcade and his right-hand woman, so to speak, Miss Locke, and takes them back to their hideout. Hold on. We pick up with Rachel and Kitty shopping. Brian, being he owns Broderick Technology or something like that, multi-million-dollar company, he set these girls up and the rest of the team with spending money in bank accounts and such like that, and they're having some fun shopping. Rachel uses her powers a little bit, which causes concern for Kitty. But what the major problem is that when they went to go pay for it, and we see Kitty like at the ATM, the money, the British pounds notes, all have members of the Crazy Gang on them, and so they're wondering like, what the heck? How's this happening? So they're gonna go back and figure this out. Here is where we see Kurt working out. Megan is there in a little skimpy bikini. I'm telling you, she's allowed to wear the skimpy bikini around men that she hardly knows. Well, why not? Why not? All right. Hey, don't look. Don't look. Don't look at the comic book character in a skimpy bikini, because you're an animal if you do. And so they're flipping around and all this stuff, having a good time. And then when they have a little crash, Megan kind of shapeshifts depending on her mood without realizing. And so she turned herself into a little female Nightcrawler, and they almost did the smoocheroo until Brian came home and yelled out for the team, and it's like, oh no, what are we doing here? And Nightcrawler, of course, is beating himself up a little bit over it because, that's someone else's girl. So basically, Kitty and Rachel tell the team about what happened with the money, and being that Courtney kind of like runs the bank and everything, there seems to be an immediate deduction that these people are causing problems for Courtney or have Courtney. And of hearing that, Brian immediately bursts into action and starts wanting to look for everyone. And of course, Megan's here. Where is Megan? Megan's getting concerned. Da-da-da. She doesn't want to lose her Brian. And then, of course, we come back to arcade. Sorry, man. God. Now, I'm almost convinced that this is the same factory we've been seeing there with Widget hanging around. But we wind up coming back to basically Courtney getting terrorized. We see this guy getting smashed by a big gigantic foot, which is pretty, again, even though this book is portrayed in a quirky and kooky way, it is also pretty violent in a lot of ways, where we see actual people dying, and we're really not, and offhand, not really realizing, oh wait, that person just freaking died, and this person just died via a big foot falling on him. You see how quirky and crazy that is, juxtaposed against the seriousness of what just happened. Because imagine yourself getting stepped on by a big foot that just comes down and smushes you. What are the odds? Bro, what are the odds? Tragic, but hilarious. That would be some nutty stuff that would happen to me. If my friends and family heard, oh, some big 20-foot foot came down and smashed him, people would be like, that would kind of sound like how he would die. Here, we do see our little buddy Widget. We see Callisto, the leader of the Morlocks, with Moira McTaggart here. Oh boy, did Moira cause some problems over the last few years for the X-Men. And they're basically, Callisto is playing bodyguard to Moira. And they're going obviously somewhere, but Widget opens up a portal and they go through that. And where did they go? Was it the same place, Saturnine, that the dude from last issue went to? Is that where the doorway went to? It's setting up looking like that our team is going to have to wind up saving Moira and Callisto, sorry. And I think that's pretty interesting because I've always liked the character of Callisto. I wish there was more done with her or more concentration on her. But she's had a pretty rich history. Again, she was the leader of the Morlocks. She's very much about protecting her people at any cost. And yeah, just a BA character, a badass. Here, we get Arcade and Miss Locke talking about, just what their plans are and what they're doing and everything. And usually Miss Locke is more of the adult out of the two when it comes to this. So she's always going to be super serious. Arcade is always going to be like, not catch three. Oh, they're all right. Yeah, I was just double checking here. They're making Courtney Ross do like a stand up act, and if she doesn't do well, then I don't want to know what happens. Finally, we do get to See Excalibur show up and go one-on-one against the Crazy Gang here. But there seems to be some sort of device that seems to be switching the bodies of the Crazy Gang with the bodies of Excalibur. So basically, like, let's just say, for instance, here, these two characters are now Nightcrawler and Megan, where these two characters, the souls of these two characters are now in their bodies, right? So we also get Rachel kind of freaking out a little bit and killing one of the members by the name of the Crazy Gang by the name of Executioner. At this particular time, she's calling out to her kid brother, Cable, who's actually still only a child in this instance. There's some sort of psychic yell from him, causing her to be distracted and taking out one of the members of the Crazy Gang. This is around the time of the Inferno storyline, in which we know eventually how that ends is a Cyclops sends his child into the future to be saved, and that child winds up becoming Cable. So, I should be on that. Alright, so I just wanted to make sure I got everything going on. So it does seem like Rachel now is in control of herself and is taking the garb of the Executioner, with the rest of the team now being controlled by the Crazy Gang. I think Kitty here is the only one not, so it'll be up to her and Lockheed and possibly Rachel to save the team, and that's where this issue ends. And we will pick up the next part of this story very soon. I gotta now replenish my stock of Excalibur comic books here. And so that will be the little cliffhanger that we leave on. Will Kitty and Rachel be able to save the rest of the team? How are they going to have their team members regain their bodies? How are they going to defeat Arcade? And that's pretty much where we're at. As you can see, we're really picking up the fact here that the characters are always going to go on some sort of quirky adventures that most of the other X-Title book teams don't go through. It's more going against people like the Friends of Humanity or Sentinels. Seems like more world level threats, bigger threats. Not saying that Arcade isn't a threat, but if Arcade was taking over town and Thanos was landing on the West Coast, you're more likely going to want to try to protect the West Coast where Thanos is at, because he can cause more damage and things like that. But it's good that, because we're dealing still with people's lack of feeling like they're worthy of the things that they have, or that they're not really the heroes that people portray themselves to be. They're beating themselves up over, like Kurt and Kitty. They weren't there to save their team, their family. So the guilt that they're carrying and the dedication they're going to want to have to keep the other people that are alive still safe, it's going to affect how they go on missions. It's going to affect how they view their relationships and how far they're willing to go to protect those people still now, because of the fear that is left behind with the X-Men's death, so to speak. They don't even know they're alive, But still, to the world, the X-Men are dead. So that guilt of Nightcrawler and Kitty and Brian, because his sister, his twin sister, was part of that team, there's going to be nothing that will make them feel better because they're having survivor's guilt and they're all dealing with it in their own way. And they're finding peace within each other. And I really dig that about this book. And it's really good to see that each book, each issue, is building more of a solidifying foundation for this team and becoming one of the more famous teams that fans have enjoyed over the years. I hope you've been enjoying this retro read through, so to speak, and we'll be picking up on it really soon. But until next time, peace.